What's up guys, my name is Mike Fixacardi. A lot of you have been requesting this video, so I have here the PERRIN Shifter Detent Kit. I'm gonna install it on my Subaru STI and I'm gonna show you how you can do it yourself. So let's get started. All right, first we'll get under the hood and we'll remove our top mount intercooler. Then we're gonna go ahead and remove this front bolt on our pitch stop mount. Next, we'll go ahead and remove our airbox. Yes, you guys are watching the correct video. Just keep watching. This will all make sense eventually. Now, you guys will see the reason why we had to remove the airbox, because we have to remove the heat shield on the turbo, and there are two bolts all the way on the side of the heat shield that we'll be able to access from here. I believe there's about 8 bolts in total holding the heat shield in place, so we're gonna remove those. You'll see why we have to do this later in the video. It's gonna be hard for you guys to see, but I'm gonna remove these 10mm bolts on the side of the heat shield here. So I got one of them off already. This is the bolts you're gonna be looking for. And there's number 2. Number 3, 4. I'll show you guys where this next one is. If you could see it, it's all the way down there. So we're gonna get rid of that one now. Number 5, number 6, number 7, and number 8 right here. Be careful, it's a little sharp. Don't cut yourself. Now, if you have a factory downpipe, you're gonna have to remove it because it's gonna be in the way of you removing 3 of the detent bolts that are on this side of the transmission. While we're up here, let's loosen up the hardware for the downpipe and then we'll finally get under the car. So it's a good idea to soak all this hardware in some penetrating oil. The top 2 are actual bolts. Take these out, we'll put them over on the side. There's 1, there's 2, and it's gonna take this little bracket off as well. Take your time, guys. Okay, that one's out. All right, guys, now I'm gonna get the car up on jack stands. We'll finish the job from underneath. Now the final bolt for the downpipe is right here. And the reason we're moving this downpipe, our 3 detent bolts are right here, literally right next to the downpipe. You cannot get those out, at least with a factory downpipe. So next we'll remove this bolt here, which holds the downpipe to the transmission. That'll be a 14mm bolt. Then from there, we'll go back to this bolt here. We'll remove that 14mm bolt as well. And next up, we'll remove the 2 12mm bolts holding the downpipe to the mid pipe. So the back side here is 14mm and the nut is a 12. Guys, and before I forget, we're gonna disconnect the O2 sensor from the harness here. So if you follow the wires up, you'll see that it's connected right on this side to the transmission. So here's the harness for the O2 sensor. I'm just gonna disconnect it from here. We'll squeeze on the tabs on the back here, and we could pull this off of the bracket and do the same. Squeeze these 2 tabs, lift it up, pull it off the bracket, and then we'll disconnect this electrical connector. One downpipe out. Now we actually start the job. Now what we're gonna do, we gotta support our transmission. We're gonna loosen the cross member so this way we can lower the transmission down. This way we could reach one of the detent bolts that's on the driver's side here that's really high up. You can't get to it without lowering down your transmission. I'm gonna support the transmission right in front of the drain bolt here. Just keep some tension on it there. All right guys, so the bolts we're gonna have to loosen up gonna be these 2 nuts here. 1 bolt here and the other one on this side. And then we've got these 2 bolts here. All right, so these are 14mm. These are also 14mm here. And then these are 18mm. Now we remove our cross member. It's gonna be difficult to see, but there's a detent bolt all the way up in there. Gotta lower this down enough that we could get up and in there. Guys, I'm gonna go ahead and remove this section also because the transmission just not dropping down far enough. We'll slowly lower down our transmission next. I'm gonna remove this wiring harness from this bracket right here. This way I could get the L key up there. Get your L key nice and square on that bolt. You don't want to round it out. Take a deep socket and an extension, put it around the L key, and you could break this free. It's going to be very tight. Just be careful you don't strip it. I already broke mine free, so we're just going to keep working it out. Now take the O-ring off of here and put it on your detent bolt. Get the O-ring all the way up to the flange, just like that. Now inside of the transmission is going to be a spring and a little ball bearing. Make sure those don't fall out. Now that's going to be a 16mm bolt now. We'll tighten it down. Torque spec's not high on here, so get it a little bit past hand tight. So just so you can see, there's the detent bolt up there. I'm going to put this bracket back in place here. Now we're going to move on to another detent bolt on the side of the transmission here, and then we'll lift it back up into place. All right guys, so our next detent bolt is up here. I have the L key on it already, so let's break that free now. Take your extension with your deep socket, put it over the L key, make sure it's nice and straight and on the bolt properly, and break it free. Detent bolt out, PERRIN going in. All right guys, so after each detent bolt that you install, make sure you get back in the car and make sure you could get into every gear. Keep in mind, with the transmission not bolted back up into its proper position, you won't be able to get into third, fourth, and sixth gear until the transmission is completely level, so don't freak out. So now we're gonna bolt the transmission back up in place, and we'll move on to the final 3 detent bolts. These will go to 25 foot-pounds. These will go to 51 foot-pounds. And these will go to 80 foot-pounds. Now we can remove our jack from underneath the transmission here. Now we're up to the final 3 detent bolts. There's our turbo up there. Our downpipe was here, covering these 3 bolts here. Well, they certainly look cool, but the question is, do they actually make a difference? Obviously, they're all installed now. I'm just gonna go ahead in the car and make sure I can still switch in and out of each gear. As long as all that's good, we can now go ahead and reinstall the downpipe. All right, new gasket going on. All right, so downpipe's in place now. As you can see, look at how close those detent bolts are to your factory heat shield on your catalytic converter, which is welded in place, so you can't remove this, but it's super close. So I'm going to bolt up everything, all the supports for the downpipe, and we'll run the bolts up on the turbo there. Let's not forget to connect our O2 sensor. We'll route it back through here. Please make sure you route these wires underneath the drive shaft. Reconnect it here, plug it back in. Make sure you cover it with this boot here. Good, make sure it ain't rubbing on anything. All right, I'm just getting all the hardware back onto the turbo there. All right, we'll go ahead and tighten these bolts up here. 2 more on this side, 1 more on this side. All right, now we're under the car. We'll get this final downpipe bolt here. All right, so that's all our downpipe bolts. I have to put this bolt back in place to hold the downpipe to the transmission here. I have to tighten down this bolt here. We're just gonna get it tight so this way we close the gap in between this donut gasket and the cap back. So we still got flexibility here. Now I'm gonna go check the exhaust tips in the back, make sure they're still in the right spot. I'm gonna go ahead and put in our pitch stop mount, our heat shield, our intercooler, and our airbox. Back bolt goes to 43 foot-pounds. Front bolt goes to 37 foot-pounds. Then we'll go ahead and reinstall our heat shield. Intercooler. All right guys, we got everything buttoned up. Now you can take the car for a test drive. Make sure the car engages and disengages all of your gears. You don't hear any clunking, any grinding. Keep in mind, it may take a little more force to get in and out of gears. That's what this detent kit is designed to do, but you shouldn't be fighting it. If you guys were also curious on how to install the PERRIN clutch delay valve delete, I I made a video for you on that as well. Check that one out. That's a little bit easier to do than all of this work. Now, the question I'm sure all of you guys have been wondering, is this job actually worth it? Yes, it is. And I'll tell you exactly what it does. So this will provide a lot more positive feedback when you're engaging each gear. So it will take a little bit more force to get in gear, but it will be that much more satisfying when you actually get that shifter into each gear. And if you're curious on how this actually works, so these are your factory detent bolts. They press on a spring, which presses on a small metal sphere inside of your transmission. That metal sphere rides along the shift rods, which have small indentations on them which correspond with each gear. The PERRIN Shifter Detent Kit applies more pressure to that small sphere, which gives you more of a positive feel when you're engaging each gear with the shifter. Now, maybe you guys could leave a comment down below if you did this job yourself. Let me know, is it different on the STI versus the WRX? This installation was specific to the STI. Also, let us know down below, what is your experience with this installation, and is it worth it to you? It's an inexpensive mod that required a lot more work than I had anticipated. Now, if you're going to do this modification on a car with an aftermarket downpipe, you're going to have to undo the bolts that connect your downpipe to your midpipe in order to drop down the transmission low enough to reach that upper detent bolt on your driver's side. Speaking of that bolt, the strategy to remove that bolt is to take your Allen key, get it nice and square on the detent bolt. You don't want to round it out. Then take a deep socket and an extension and use it as a breaker bar. That worked out really well. If you are doing this on a car where you're gonna remove your downpipe, I highly recommend that you soak all of the hardware with a high quality penetrating oil. I use Kroil, and I don't mean to soak it for 30 minutes. I mean soak it for a couple of days. Let it really work in there. If you do wind up snapping any of that hardware, I have a kit. I linked everything you see here down in the description below. You should replace your gasket between your turbo and your downpipe. This one's from Overtake, and if your exhaust system has a donut gasket, I didn't replace mine, but it's a good idea too if yours is really old. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up button for me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.